you've gotten avoidant and you're afraid to take action. You will dream all day long because you'll get that dopamine hit, but taking action doesn't happen. The result is you have less motivation, you have less belief in yourself, and ultimately you have less action. You have become addicted to intentions. You're allergic to execution. And that is the exact opposite of what you truly want, how you want to live your life. Welcome to the Fire and Iron Show. My name is Reggie, and I tell you what, we've all been here before. You've made promises to yourself and you didn't keep them. So now you're thinking, now what do I do? Because I know I have, and I'm sure you guys can relate too. You've wanted to go to the gym and you've told people about that. Start working out, get in better shape, fit into those clothes again. It didn't happen. You wanted to start bettering yourself and, be less on your phone and stop scrolling as much. Or you're going to start reading, or maybe you're going to start going to church again and start connecting with your spiritual side, but it just hasn't happened. Or maybe you've gone a couple times and then it totally fell flat on its face. Maybe you want to be present with your kids and your spouse, but the game keeps you distracted. Work keeps you distracted, and you don't follow through on that. Maybe you want to stop drinking and just numbing that pain. Maybe you want to stop lying, those little white lies that we tell each other and that you tell yourselves. And it just keeps on going and going and going because you feel the shame, the guilt of your actions or your non-actions too. Because this episode is about not beating yourself up. If we were honest with each other, I am horrible at beating myself up. I will constantly live in my head and just beat myself up and replay conversations and replay situations and play the what if game and play the you shoulda, woulda, coulda game. But that's not what this episode is all about. It's about building you back up with truth and not hype. And if you've watched some of our previous episodes, you know I like hype. Hype is a good thing, but hype is not sustainable. Discipline, having a plan, that is what you need to focus on. Here is the psychology, okay? The psychology and neuroscience of when you break promises to yourself. So let's break it down a little bit. Let's have a little fun with this and think about this chemically, about what is physically happening in your body when you go through this process. When your brain, it wants to track consistency. It's constantly trying to make sense of the environment, okay? And what it's doing is when you say, I want to do something, and then your actions don't line up with it, there's a gap. There's that gap there, and it creates cognitive dissonance. Now, that basically is a fancy way to say there's tension in between what you say you're going to do and what the actual results are showing. So again, your brain doesn't know what to do, and it's trying to make sense of it all. And so what it does is it defaults to what are the results that I'm seeing? What is actually happening? Not just words, but what is happening in reality? And when you say, hey, I want to go to the gym, and you don't go, and you say, I'm going to start showing up for my wife and kids, and you don't. You say, hey, I'm going to start reading a book, and you don't. It's going to say, I can't trust my own word. Your brain is literally telling you, I can't trust this. And over time, decision after decision, broken promise after broken promise, this continues. And the identity starts to be reshaped to say, I'm someone who starts things but doesn't finish them. I don't follow through. And eventually you'll start saying to yourself, why even try? Because our brain will associate inaction with safety. And this is the crazy part about it. And when we start getting into all this stuff, because if you can understand the psychology and the neuroscience behind what happens when I break these promises, then we can use it for the positive. It's not just in the negative. Because when you set a goal or you have an intention to start Monday, or man, I'm going to get serious now, our brain gets that little bit of a dopamine hit. You get that excitement. You get that picture in your head about what it's going to be like. And you go through those feelings of, man, I'm going to, show up to work and I'm going to be committed there and I'm going to make these calls and make these sales or make this amount of money, or I'm going to start that business. I'm going to start reading a book and I'm going to start showing up for my wife. I'm going to start hitting the gym. You start picturing yourself with a fit body. You start picturing yourself with all these different things that you are wanting to do, and your brain gets a little bit of a dopamine hit because there's a fantasy behind it, but it doesn't get rewired for action. It's just a quick hit because dopamine's released when you anticipate the reward, not when you actually get it. The anticipation of it, the visioning of it, the how is my life going to be different, and oh my gosh, all my problems are going to be solved. That's when it's released, not when you actually get it. So just talking about it, it makes you feel good, and you haven't even done a thing. Even a step further, over time, our brain, it builds this feedback loop of talking is good, but action, that's discomfort. Because we're getting these hits and you're not taking action. And then we're just refocusing on them. Because every time you say, I'm serious this time, you've got this little reward system that's going on, this dopamine pathway. You are associating talking and avoidance with emotional relief. Because you have years and years and years and broken promises over and over and over and over. So now you're starting to associate the two of I'm going to talk about it and dream about it and get that hit, but then I'm also not going to take action. This is commonly referred to, that whole, scenario as the reward prediction error. Because your brain expected something and it didn't get it. And now it pushes your drive further and further away, further down. You've gotten avoidant and you're afraid to take action. You will dream all day long because you'll get that dopamine hit. But taking action doesn't happen. The result is you have less motivation, you have less belief in yourself, and ultimately, you have less action. You have become addicted to intentions. You're allergic to execution. And that is the exact opposite of what you truly want, how you want to live your life. To continue even further down this road, now we have guilt and shame coming into play because you will create this shame loop inside of your head because you feel guilty not achieving and you'll beat yourself up. And then the guilt becomes shame. I'm the problem. It won't work for me. I can't do that because of X, Y, and Z, and excuses start to roll in. You have shame triggers. Whether it's I'm going to distract myself on my phone, I'm going to, get addicted to food, or I'm going to get addicted to, other things, porn or substances. I'm going to avoid. I'm going to seek comfort instead of discipline and pain. Then you make new promises. Oh man, you feel guilty about yourself enough to where, enough is enough. I've got to make new promises. I've got to do this. And then you just repeat the whole process again, where you don't take action. And then you feel guilty and then shameful. And then you avoid. And then you make new promises. And then you don't take action. And it's this vicious cycle that keeps on going and going and going. So the question you need to be asking yourself is, why is this important specifically for men? And this is huge. It's important for everyone, men and women alike. But this podcast focuses on men, on reigniting that fire, on finding your purpose, on forging your future. When we lie to ourselves and continue to lie and get stuck in these shame, circle of death and spiral downs, it erodes at our confidence because you don't trust yourself anymore. It takes away our clarity because you don't know what to believe anymore. And most importantly, it takes away your courage. I don't think I can lead. And that's what you're telling yourself. It'll work for Jimmy. It'll work for Johnny. It'll work for them, but it won't work for me. And that's why guys who break promises to themselves stop leading in their homes. They disconnect from their purpose, and ultimately they numb out. Whether it's through sports or whether it's through gambling, whether it's through addictions or anything else that we've talked about here, they completely drift away and become a shell of the man that they were at one time, the man that they could be. And that's what we're after, to reignite that. So that is what the question is. How do you rebuild these circuits? Because if you're anything like me, I'm 42. I've had years and years and decades of these cycles of beating myself up, of this dopamine hit. I'm going to dream about it, but I'm not taking action. So how do you rebuild those circuits? How do you get psychology and neuroscience to work for you instead of against you? Just like everything else, you've got to start small. Lower the bar. Okay? We're going to raise our standards, but we're lowering the bar of what we want. We want to stack wins. I don't care if it's making your bed in the morning. You commit to yourself that you're going to make the bed in the morning. Take a walk around the block. Hit X amount of steps. Cut out alcohol. Have 10 minutes of reading. I don't care what that goal is. You need to have a small goal that you can be committed to and treat this like it matters, because it does. Maybe it's when you get home at night after work, you put your phone on the kitchen counter. If you have one of those little charging station things, just put it on that. Stop walking around the house with your phone on you the whole time, because it's hard to check your phone every 32 seconds when it's on the counter. Small wins that show I'm serious about this. I'm committed. The number 2 thing, you need to track your progress daily. I've talked about it before on having a checklist. I don't care if it's an Excel spreadsheet where you've got, the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, all the way through the 30th, 31st, how many ever days are in the month. And you literally check it off. Or you can just make a quick grid on a sticky note and stick it on your bathroom mirror or in your closet, or have an app that comes up on your phone. There are a million different ways you can do this, but you need to track daily, because if you don't track it, it's going to slip. You're going to drift. You're not going to think about it. It's going to be too easy, just out of sight, out of mind. Put it in your way so you have to look at it on a regular basis. Start